A funny thing happened on the way. Several years ago, I was in need of a job, and the community I live in was kind and gave me a job as a public works laborer. I also had a class 1 driver's license because I drove school bus for my dad, and so I was able to drive truck when I worked for the town. This story I want to tell you, I'll preface it by saying it's probably not a great example of ways to live your life and how I would do that over again. But I will say it has won me the most embarrassing moment story on an old radio station that doesn't even exist anymore, and I won actually a Rod Stewart box set of CDs. That's how old it is. And I also won a humorous speech contest at Toastmasters. Now, this is, if you know Toastmasters, you know there's a time frame involved in a speech, and so I'll do my best to stick pretty close to that, but the story kind of evolves and looks different every time I tell it. So, at any rate, I worked for the town, and I was driving 3-ton truck. One day, they asked 3 of us to each take a truck and go into Lethbridge to get shale for the ball diamonds. I was so excited, and away we went. Now, I was traveling with 2 other trucks that didn't necessarily have all the best lights working on the trucks, and my truck did have good lights working, so I was kind of the rear truck to make sure that we were not the subject of the local federales. I'll say it that way. At any rate, off we went, and as we were driving to Lethbridge, I realized that I had to go to the bathroom. Now, at that time in my life, and this was a different time, and for many who knew me then, different Kathy. But at any rate, I did not want to admit to these other 2 men that the girl had to go to the bathroom, so I said nothing. We got to the shale pit, and I thought, oh, there'll be a place I can go there. No, it's miles and miles of shale and nothing else. A loader operator and our 3 trucks. So one of my coworkers backed his truck up to the shale. I backed my truck in beside his, and our 3rd backed in beside me. So we were all backed up to the shale pit, and the other driver got out and went around and was chatting. So the 2 men were over here, and I was sitting in my truck thinking, I have to go to the bathroom, and I'm in trouble because I'm not going to admit to those guys that I need to go to the bathroom. There's a point, right? You need to actually say, I'm going to break off here and go find a restroom, but I didn't because I was somewhat stubborn, and I didn't want to be seen as the girl. And so I didn't say anything. Well, it got worse and worse, and I knew that I was going to have an accident if I didn't do something. So I realized that the 2 guys were over here on the other side of the truck. There was an alleyway here between our 2 trucks, and nobody was over here. And I thought, how perfect. I'll just hop down, go back between the 2 badoolies, quickly pee, and no one will ever know. So it took me a while to talk myself into doing that, honestly, and back I went. So I was there doing my business between the 2 doolies when all of a sudden I felt a giant whoomp on my back, and my glasses filled up, my hoodie filled up. I was covered in red shale. The loader operator that was filling the other truck was smoothing off the box, and I took a load of shale in the back. So I was staggering around, still peeing, and I was covered in red shale everywhere, and places that I wouldn't say in a family video or even any other time, quite frankly. And I had taken my glasses off, and I set them on the tire of the truck, and I was trying to figure out what had just happened when I took another load, not as large, but still another whoop. And there was, no part of me that wasn't red shale. Then the truck beside me started up. He was loaded and he was going to pull out of the way. I chased my glasses, heading on his tire, trying to get my clothes up because I knew there was going to be a loader operator standing there. And yes, there was shale everywhere. I jumped back in my truck and looked in the mirror, and my face was bright red shale. My hoodie, the hood was full of shale. My pockets were full of shale. Both inside and outside my clothes were full of shale. Yeah, I couldn't decide if I wanted to cry or laugh. I happened to look to my right, and there was the other driver. And he was just looking at me through the window. And he got out and opened my passenger door and he's like, "Kathy." And I lost my mind on him. I said things I don't say anymore. And so he quickly retreated and got back in his own truck. I threatened him with his life if he said anything to anyone. Like as if no one was going to notice I was bright red and covered in shale. The loader operator just sat there, and I'm not sure what he saw. I don't want to know. At any rate, they loaded my truck, and then it became the race back to the shop to see who could get there first to tell what had happened with Kathy. Now, what I decided to do was to tell them I was simply walking between the trucks, checking the tires like a good truck driver would, and took the load of shale. I avoided telling them I was actually peeing and that shale was everywhere. It was a really good source of entertainment at the shop, and to top it off, I was then sent to flag on a road we were building because they had a flag person needed. So there I was, flagging. Bright red shale, my clothes bright red, everything bright red. People coming past stopped to check on me, and I would have to say that I wasn't very kind. That was an adventure. Would I do it differently? Absolutely. But did I learn? Yes. And did I laugh? Oh, so much. And it's become a great source of fun. I think that's one of the things that's important for us, is that we learn to laugh about what isn't fun, what isn't comfortable, and we recognize what we learned from it. So in future, don't be afraid to say you have to go to the bathroom. Don't go between two trucks when they're being loaded with shale. And quit being so darn stubborn.